Smith-Rowe's had a great, I won't say start to the season, but he's finally got his chance. And for me, it's about consistency. It's good. It's all fun and games doing it in the Europa League, doing it occasionally. You need to do it consistently. And at Huddersfield, he got a good, he didn't set the world alight, but he showed what he could do. He stood up to be counted. This season, for Smith-Rowe, the only reason he will not go and make it at Arsenal in any capacity is injuries. He hasn't been allowed to stay fit. He's had the shoulder problem, and all of these things stop you from training and not really being involved and being at the end of the queue. Now, we all used to say, why is Joe Willock playing in that role and not Smith-Rowe? Now we're backed up with it. You see what Smith-Rowe's on. For me, it's all about consistency. It's great doing it against Chelsea, but it all went out the window if you couldn't do it against Brighton, which he did. And obviously in our last game, he also did well. Those are 3 games. Now, 3 games is hardly going to decide his future. He needs to keep it up, but so far, so good. He's doing what he needs to do. Still think there's a lot of development to be done. Like, if I'm harsh, I think he could be a bit more like Saka, where he's in the game fully. I do think he goes in and out of it. Not that any creatives don't, but he's a good player, man, and he can help us. Again, you don't know my feelings on Isco. Again, if it was just on ability, I'm taking Isco. When I consider that he'd be joining mid-season, we need someone that can hit the ground running. He hasn't really been playing, so we'll go on for his physical state. I think there's a lot of reasons to not move for Isco. But see me, people, personally, whether it's bringing Ozil back into the side, if you can't bring, as in being registered in the squad, if you can't bring in someone, I think you need someone, because for me, it doesn't help Smith-Rowe. Again, Smith-Rowe and all these young players, they have to deal with pressure. They're playing for Arsenal. It is what it is, isn't it? We know they're young, but it is what it is. But for me, it's not sensible, because it's been 3 games from Smith-Rowe. He's young, he got a little education at Huddersfield, and he's been in and around the first team for a minute. But what happens if he has a shaky next game, and then the other game he plays poor? Now, we have to ask question marks of him in a healthy way. We obviously know he's young and he needs to improve. But my point is this: we put too much pressure on players. Like, he is not going to be the creative answer alone. What happens when Smith-Rowe can't be at it? What happens when he has a bad game? Touch wood. What happens if he's injured? Nobody's about. So when I hear things like Smith-Rowe has made Arteta not want Isco and these things there, it makes sense to me. It warms my heart, because it shows that Smith-Rowe's a baller. But football is a squad game. And Smith-Rowe is trying to learn that as well. And injuries and loss of form, all of these things are relevant. So if Smith-Rowe's having a bad day, who gets thrown in? And it's unnecessary pressure as well. We need a creative man, regardless of Smith-Rowe. For me, you get Smith-Rowe in, you have another creative man, you let them man there fight it out for whoever wants it. It is what it is. Whoever wins that and starts people. So, yeah, man, Smith-Rowe was a candidate, I would say, to go out on loan, based on the fact of I couldn't understand why he's not playing. But it's nice to see, better late than never, he's forced his way into the team. As you can see, this is a Spanish article. Wish I didn't accept that cookie. But Isco's been linked with moves everywhere, primarily to Seville, where he could play under Lopetegui, but he's also been linked with Arsenal. Now, this is an article from AS, and it's more or less said, Arteta's apologies. Let me zoom in a bit for you guys as well as myself, because it's bare writing and I can't say anything. But Arteta's Arsenal are showing obvious signs of recovery, and much of the blame is on a young midfielder of only 20 years of age. Blah blah blah. Big up Smith-Rowe. We all know he's turned up in 3 games. I'm not going to bore you lot with that. We all know he had a loan spell at Huddersfield. Again, I've just said this. I'm not going to read it all out. Apparently, the Smith-Rowe explosion has met the news of Arteta's interest in recruiting Isco for Arsenal. The Basque coach is seduced by players like the Madrid player, and it was a fact that he could fit into their plans if they had definitely looked for him. However, his desires have been stopped in view of the level of his last spell, which coincides in the position on the field, and even in some football conditions with Isco, he's not very tall, low center of gravity, drop socks, and a right leg that is pure magic. So again, he's showing that they're both creative players. Beyond that, don't really understand the waffle there. But long story short, is saying that we're not going for Isco because of Smith-Rowe. And again, I still want a creative man. We always do this flavor in the month thing. Smith-Rowe is 20 years of age. God knows how many times he's played for Arsenal and Huddersfield, but I very much doubt he's at 100 appearances in his career as a professional. Again, Smith-Rowe will show his quality. For you lot know me, I'm Hayland FC. Smith-Rowe's a bad boy. Look, 2 assists, 3 goals. 3 matches, 2 assists. He does his thing. You know what Smith-Rowe's on, but at the end of the day, he's still a young man, and I'm trying to actually find transfer mark just to illustrate the point, people. He needs to show consistency. We need to probably be speaking about a new deal for Smith-Rowe. He's contracted until 2023. We got to start thinking about that. We all know he's an England under 19 international, probably probably forced his way into the under-21 setup, in my opinion, now after this little burst onto the first team setup. Trying to actually find how many appearances the man's made. Look, people, he's made 19 appearances for Arsenal Football Club. He's made 19 for Huddersfield. You know, like I said, he's nowhere near 100 appearances. Does this make sense to rely on him like that? And I'm not criticizing Smith-Rowe. I'm not. Don't get it twisted. I want him part of the squad. I want him to get games. But when things hit the fan, you need other man. You know, you all saw Man City yesterday. Bare injuries. COVID has messed them up. You know, dare I say, by City's own standards, that is probably a squad they'll play in the Cat Yarabel Cup. You know, someone like Gundogan, I'd say, is very underappreciated at Manchester City. Not because he's not a bad player, it's just they've got dotted around quality, you know. When the usual suspects previously, David Silva, to illustrate a point, Bernardo, Kevin De Bruyne, they've got a young Gundogan. They're not just relying on one single man. And I know these are not attacking players, but we can't rely on one single man in the same way we can't rely on we literally cannot rely on just one man. And we do it with defenders. We always do it when people are in form as well. Again, football's a squad game. There's 38 games on the calendar, people. So, and again, he's got 3 appearances at Leipzig. I didn't understand that loan spell because the man wasn't fully fit. Is it any coincidence he's got three things? So for me, you know, I would like to see Smith-Rowe given more of an opportunity and continue to get an opportunity. I'd like to obviously see another creative man roll into this team. And then if we can play around with some other options, why not, people? Why not? You know, I want 2 options minimum, Smith-Rowe and the next creative man. I don't know if push comes to shove and you have to reintegrate Ozil or whatever, but I do think you need 2 options there. You know, we always do this thing because what happens when it's not at it? You know, what happens when he's injured? It's the same way with Partey. What happens when Partey is not fit? We go back down the toilet in midfield, sort of thing. We need depth. Football is a depth game. There's 38 Premier League games. There's however many games, you know, if you're playing, you know, Champions League, Europa League, FA Cup, Cat Yarabel Cup. Obviously, some players have internationals and there's fatigue in the legs as well. So there's a lot to consider. But I don't get that one there, people, in my humble opinion. But it is what it is. Apparently, we're not going to move for Isco. I would only have accepted Isco on loan. Not that I have any sort of say in things and all of those sort of things, but it is what it is in that regards, people. It firmly is what it is. Now, moving away from that,